Is there a shortage of anabolic steroids on the market now because of restrictions on China? What does that mean for pro bodybuilders? What does that mean for all bodybuilders? Stay tuned to find out. Standing here with my good friend Bruce from Legendary Foods, and they have done it again. Mac and cheese, 47 grams of protein, only 7 net carbs. I can't tell the difference between this and regular. I highly recommend you try this. I love it. Check it out at legendaryfoods.com. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
RX Television, RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, your weekly 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. Whatever is on your mind, be it bodybuilding, non-bodybuilding, diet, training, supplementation, this is your forum to ask Dave whatever it is on your mind. We're going to go right into the questions. The first 2 questions on the show from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. We had touched on this topic a couple of episodes ago, but we could delve further into it now. And this is more about the future of bodybuilding as you see it, with there being a, I mean, if you want to say perceived or realistic shortage right now of anabolics, or legitimate anabolics right now on the market.
Well, I think that at least the fear of it is that, the drugs are not coming in from China the way they were, the raw materials, that is. And that might be because of tighter regulations, both in the United States and in China, because I hear China now is not able to send over the raws like they were in the past. There's more restrictions on them. Obviously, tariffs also affecting stuff like that. But I think that's actually good for the market. I'll explain why. It sounds like it isn't, but it actually is good, because I don't trust a lot of that stuff coming from China anyway. I don't think it's that pure. I don't think a lot of it is what they say it is. I think a lot of people pull the switcheroo on a lot of this stuff. And I think guys are using pretty crappy anabolics nowadays. So there's never been a period in time when, if people need to access drugs, whether it be anabolic steroids or, recreational drugs, there's always someone who's going to fill the need for it. So I don't know if it's going to be starting to be made here, maybe, or maybe another country that does things a little better than China. Possibly India or something like that. Or maybe, like I said, maybe there'll be labs that open here that start making these raw materials. But whatever fills the marketplace, or maybe there'll just be less restrictions on, rejuvenation clinics prescribing the stuff. That, to me, is going to help the marketplace. It's going to help the bodybuilding world, at least. It's going to help the bodybuilders, because I would not want to be competing in today's day and age, because you don't know what you're using, if it's real or not. Obviously, there are people who have good hookups with rejuvenation clinics that will prescribe, reasonable amounts of anabolics, but not everyone has access to that. Most people are using, stuff that's made in people's basement, essentially, or in their bathroom. And I don't like it. It's scary to me. And I think that's why guys are using the dosages that they're using today, because I just think that the stuff is not as potent as the real stuff was, maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Second question, again, these first 2 from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. This question about lab evaluations. And again, it's when you're dealing with anabolics, you're dealing with the sport, competing in this sport. There are certain health markers that you have to be very particular about. When I do an estradiol test, what are the healthy ranges? If I'm doing an ultra-sensitive test on lab sheets, I've noticed that the ranges are different if you're doing an ultra-sensitive test versus just a normal estradiol test.
From the way I understand this, okay, from what the stuff I've read, and the regular estradiol test, and now there's different forms of estrogen. There's estradiol, there's estrogens, but estradiol is the predominant estrogen, so that's what we usually test. You can get a total estrogen test too, but it's most of the estrogen in the total estrogen test is coming from estradiol. So regular estradiol tests are very accurate for women. Evidently, for men, okay, the ultrasensitive estradiol test is more accurate. And from what I've seen, some people can go for an regular estradiol test, which is obviously probably cheaper and more available. And a lot of times they'll say their levels are high, and then they go for this ultrasensitive estradiol test, and they're actually in range. So I think that the regular estradiol is not necessarily accurate. And I can attest to that because sometimes my levels come back really high, and I have no estrogen side effects, estrogenic side effects. And sometimes if I do take an anti-estrogen, I immediately lose my sex drive. So, and I'm not really, I only take 80 milligrams a week of testosterone replacement. So I know I really don't need an estrogen blocker. So I think the ultra-sensitive estradiol better for men. For women, it doesn't matter which one you use. They're both accurate. And that's probably the best way to go about it. If you're a guy and you can get the ultrasensitive, get the ultrasensitive done. Now, these two questions come from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. I know it's coming up on Christmas. People are looking for stocking stuffers. $29 a month. You can download the app from your iTunes store, your Android store. You get Dave Palumbo in your back pocket as your coach. You have access to all my writings, all my videos I've done in an organized place so you can find everything. I have all my protocols in there, diets, keto diet, cyclical diet, off-season diet. I have all my cycles for beginners, advanced, men and women, detoxification programs. I have workouts we put up every week. I answer everyone's questions in an open forum. So you see everyone's questions and everyone's answers, a really good learning experience. And then, of course, I do a Q&A video exclusively for the app members every single week. So you get an extra Ask Dave in the app. It's a learning experience. If you're a coach, if you're someone who just wants to learn about your body, this is a great tool to have. It's great continuing education. It's constantly being updated and evolving. So it's constantly got new information on there. And like I said, for $29 a month, you can't go wrong. And guess what? I want to thank you guys out there because you guys have been supporting it the last several years, and it's grown every single month since then. And that's why I keep doing it. So thanks a lot.
Before we go to the rest of our questions, our friends at Titan Medical Center have a deal. Access to BPC with TB and KPV all in the same bottle. Also, they have sildenafil 51 mg, tadalafil 15 mg, and apomorphine 2 mg rapid dissolve at Titan Medical Center.
Yeah, they finally combined the three drugs I wanted all together, or three supplements, I should say. TB 500 and BPC and the copper peptide. It's all together. And, these are the three main healing modalities that you want. And you know what? It's a pain in the neck to have to buy separate bottles of everything. I do it because, I like all three of them. But the truth of the matter is on a regular basis, I probably use BPC because I'm just too lazy to take, all those shots. Now it's all in one bottle, in one formula. You get a lot more bang for your buck. Okay. And it's just more convenient. You only have to take one shot. So I highly recommend you check it out. I don't know. It's while supplies last. They just got it in. And I would call them up now and tell them Dave Palumbo RX Muscle sent you for a discount and start healing. I tell people this all the time. I haven't used growth hormone for years and years and years, even before I had my thyroid issue. But once I had my thyroid removed because of cancer, I got nervous and I said, I'll never use GH. Even if I have like a surgery and I want to heal, I'll never do it because I don't want to risk if I have a couple rogue cells floating around. And I'll tell you something, since I've been using the BPC and some of these healing peptides, I almost think I actually do think that they work better on a healing perspective than GH ever did. They're obviously not going to build muscle like GH does, but for sure, their healing properties are much better. So if you have any pain, chronic pain, any injuries, check it out at TitanMedicalCenter.com.
TitanMedicalCenter.com. Again, if you mentioned RX Muscle or Dave Palumbo, they will give you the royal treatment. Let's go to the rest of our questions from our YouTube community page. How many Omegalyze daily if I'm avoiding dietary fat completely?
Well, the recommended replacement dose, in other words, the essential fatty acid amounts that your body requires, is the 3 pills twice a day with food. Okay, so that's going to give you 3 grams of fish oil. It's going to give you 2.6 grams of evening primrose oil, which is going to give you your omega-3 and 6s. Those are the essential fatty acids. Okay, now, do your body need other fats to be healthy? Sure, but these are the ones your body can't synthesize and has sometimes a tough time getting them from food unless you're eating like wild-caught salmon, the evening primrose oil, which is the GLA, is almost impossible to get from your diet. So my recommendation is always take an essential fatty acid supplement. Now, some people just don't get enough monounsaturated fats from their diet. Like they don't eat avocados and they're not eating, they're not taking an extra virgin olive oil or macadamia nuts. So for that purpose, the macadamia nut oil that we make from Species Nutrition makes it very convenient. But those are not essential fats, but those are actually good burning, heart healthy fats, the monounsaturated fats. So once again, if you're not someone who eats any fat in your diet, I recommend the Omegalyze, but then supplementing with the mac oil too, maybe putting a tablespoon in the shake. Maybe if you can get 2-3 tablespoons in a day, that's going to give your body the fat that it needs. Now, if you're eating fat in your diet, like avocados and like whole eggs and stuff like that, then you might not need to supplement, with the macadamia nut oil. I still think it's a great convenience and it gives you some good fats in there, and you can cook with it because it doesn't burn. But the Omegalyze is something everyone should take every single day because those are the ones that you absolutely need. And the funny thing is, you can take in enough fat, you can take in enough calories, and you might still not lose weight because if you don't take in the essential fatty acids in the right amount, what happens is your body thinks it thinks it's being deprived of something, and it tends to hoard fat. And in women, if you don't take enough essential fats, they hoard the fat in their butt and their thighs. And in men, if you don't take in enough essential fats, your body hoards it in your lower back around the waist. So if you're having stubborn areas that are not letting go of the fat and you're not taking an essential fatty acid supplement, try Omegalyze, and it's like magic. All of a sudden, your body starts letting go of stuff that it was holding on for dear life, before.
Dave, before we go actually to the rest of our questions, we'd be remiss if we did not address the big addition of the Species Nutrition lineup. 2 big additions. One, the return of the legend himself, Lee Priest, rejoining Species Nutrition. We made the big grand announcement yesterday, and obviously, you know how beloved Lee is around the world as it relates to bodybuilding fans. So it was quite a resounding, feedback from the bodybuilding community, but then also a product that we've been working on for quite some time, and a product that you're very, very high on right now is a new addition to the lineup, STIMULYZE Max. Reformulated version of STIMULYZE. Why is this the best pre-workout right now on the market?
First of all, I thought when you were going to ask me, the most proud new signing for Species, I thought you were talking about my white-headed cockatiel that we had just signed on for a seed endorsement. But I guess you
surprisingly that was not on my nowhere near the forefront of my mind.
And it certainly wasn't the teddy bear hamster that we also signed concurrently. But I guess Lee is a bigger star than both of those. But yes, Lee Priest has rejoined us. Lee never wanted to leave. It came to a point when I was working with him, because I'm his friend, where someone offered him an obscene amount of money. Which, when someone does that to you, it usually means that there's something attached to it. And I said, Lee, go take the money. Don't worry about it. You're always welcome back here. So he went and got it. And then he had a fallout with the person because they obviously were not, giving him what he promised, but they promised him. And now we got him back. So I'm so happy to have Lee back in our Species Nutrition. Because he uses the products and he loves them. And I know we have a great friendship. So I'm so glad to have him back. But yes, STIMULYZE has come back. It's funny. We took almost a 2-year hiatus on STIMULYZE because what happened was the other one worked really well. And there was a problem. It was getting hard. Like, there's certain ingredients in there that can become caked up. And so I had to reformulate it. Plus, I wanted to reformulate it anyway. So once I started, me, Sid, once I get into doing something, I can't just change one ingredient and put it out again. I'm like, I got to make it better. And once I started adding more citrulline and more beta-alanine, we have the most of the entire industry, which is going to obviously increase pumps. It's going to increase your endurance. And then I started tweaking the nootropic formula so that you can get a better feeling and a real good feel-good feeling when you take it without having to jack the caffeine through the roof. And then I got all that tweaked. And then all of a sudden I had to try to make it taste good. When you start adding all those ingredients, it doesn't taste good. So then I got my flavor guys on it, and I was driving them crazy. And then I wanted 2 flavors instead of 1 flavor. So a year and a half later, we finally got, look, you know what? It's worth the wait, because I'd rather put out something that tastes great and works amazing than put out a mediocre product that just because for the sake of putting it out. So the new STIMULYZE Max, both flavors are absolutely, there's nothing better on the market than it. I don't know if it's what the price is compared to other people's. It's probably priced pretty comparable. But I'm telling you, when you try it, you'll tell me I'll never use another pre-workout. I don't care what the hype is on all these other ones out there. Quality-wise, pumps, endurance, mental focus. You're going to feel like you're on an antidepressant. I've said it a million times. I'm going to continue saying it. You feel so good on this product that you want to take it every single day. And the great thing is it tastes good. Hiding the taste of some of these supplements that are in that product is really, really tough. I got to give, congratulations to our flavor guys. They did an awesome job with this product, and it's available now at speciesnutrition.com. Check it out. It's going to knock your socks off.
So again, check it out. Brand new STIMULYZE
Plus,
yeah.
We also have pumpkin spice back in stock. I wanted to mention that. Holiday flavor. Only for the holidays. We did a limited run. Once they're done, they're done. I promise you, if you order it, it's the best tasting flavor we have. If you like pumpkin spice. Everyone swears to me it's got a ton of sugar in it. It must have sugar. That's how good it tastes. It has 0 carbs in it. It's spectacular. 28 grams of protein per serving, the highest in the entire industry. No one uses a better whey isolate than I do. I know that because when I talk to the manufacturer, they say no one buys the highest grade isolate. You're the only one. So you know what? If you want a great tasting product for the holidays only, check out the pumpkin spice isolate.
And of course, that flavor, once it's gone, it's gone. Perhaps it'll make a comeback in fall of 2026. Yeah. We proceed to the rest of our questions. This is a question that we do get fairly often as far as a general guideline. Must have supplements. Well, this one is a little bit more tilted on top. I mean, he said 5 to 10. Let's stick to maybe 3 to 5. Top 3 to 5 supplements one should be taking daily if they're on gear. I mean, he did mention fish oil, etc., but specific to if they're enhanced.
Yeah. The top 3 supplements will never change. Whether you're on gear, you're not on gear, you're a man, you're a woman, you're a something else. The nutrition is nutrition. You need essential fatty acids, okay? You need vitamins, minerals, trace metals, antioxidants, polyphenolics, because those run all the chemical reactions in the body. Okay, so if you don't take those in the right amounts with absorbable sources of ingredients, then you're cheating yourself. So you're training hard in the gym, you're eating enough protein, you're eating enough fat, you're eating enough carbs, and then you're not getting the right micronutrients to do the chemical reactions, which are protein synthesis, fat metabolism. I mean, it's insane not to address that. So they're necessary. And I made things very easy. And I'm not trying to make this a species nutrition promotional, episode, but it just so happened that that's the way the questions worked out. I made V-Mineralize for the vitamins, minerals, trace metals, antioxidants, polyphenolics. I made Omegalyze for the essential fatty acids in the right dosages. I did all the research. I did all the work for you. All you got to do is take them, okay? And then, of course, FiberLyze, which is something that a lot of people do not get enough of, an essential fiber supplement that has actually fiber that's potent. We use the highest swell rate psyllium in FiberLyze. That's why it's the most potent fiber product on the market. It's also the best tasting. And guess what? With all the people nowadays doing GLP-1 agonists like retatrutide, Mounjaro, Ozempic, if you have to, it's not even maybe I should. You will have to take a fiber supplement twice a day if you do those drugs, because you will not poop. The way the drug works is it slows your digestive tract. When your digestive tract slows down, it makes you less hungry, okay? Takes away your appetite. But what it also does is it leaves the food in the colon longer. What's the colon's job? To extract fluid. It takes the moisture out of the waste. The longer it sits in the colon, the more fluid it takes out. And then what happens is you get impacted. You can't poop. You get constipated because it's not moving. When you take FiberLyze, because it gels up the fecal matter, it just slides out of you. So you actually have to take a fiber supplement, okay, if you're on a GLP-1. You should do it anyway because it's healthy for your gut. It feeds the gut bacteria because the gut bacteria ferment the soluble fiber, which makes them healthier and creates a more fortified, barrier inside your colon and small intestine against, leaky gut. But in the very least, if you're on a GLP-1, you better use FiberLyze. So those are the 3 supplements: V-Mineralize, Omegalyze, FiberLyze. Made it easy. Do you have to use mine? No. You can use other brands, but you're going to have to piecemeal it all together. I took the work out of it for you, and I'm telling you, if you try those 3 products only, that would be great. Now, if you're enhanced, obviously there's some other aspects of what's going on. You're creating a little bit of liver toxicity, right? Because the liver breaks down all anabolic steroids. So I would recommend some kind of a milk thistle TUDCA product, possibly. I sell a product from Bill Llewellyn called Liver Stable at DavePalumbo.com. It's a great product. You might want to just go on Amazon and Google TUDCA, and you can get that. It kind of helps, free up if you have like a sludgy gallbladder, it'll kind of, make that work a little better. But at the very least, you should use a product like Liver Stable or some kind of milk thistle silymarin product every single day if you're on gear, especially orals. The long-acting anabolics, they're not really that toxic to the liver. And, keep control of your blood pressure, because high blood pressure damages the kidneys. So it's not the steroids that cause the kidney damage, it's the high blood pressure. So if your blood pressure is running high, consider taking an ACE inhibitor or an angiotensin receptor blocker like ramipril, or lisinopril for the ACE inhibitors, or telmisartan, valsartan for the angiotensin receptor blockers. It's protection for your kidneys. No one told us that when I was competing back in the day. I wish they did. It's not going to inhibit your gains at all, but it will protect your kidneys.
Question about orals for longevity. Are there any oral longevity supplements that have been proven, I guess, to quote unquote, add years to your lives? Melatonin, oral glutathione, resveratrol, anything that you have taken or you would recommend?
There's a million things out there nowadays for supposed longevity. Everyone has all their different cocktails. I use some NAD+, which I get from Titan Medical Center, which is good for cognitive function, for mitochondrial refortification. I think that's a smart supplement. You can only take glutathione injectably. It's not orally absorbable. You can take N-acetylcysteine, which is a precursor to glutathione, but if you're going to take glutathione, you have to inject it. I take 200 milligrams, maybe 5-6 days a week. And once again, I get that from Titan Medical as well. And I like those products because they're great for detoxification, antioxidants. They help your body process energy better. And as we get older, we lose some of that ability. I also take melatonin before bed. I take my STIMULYZE product, 3 pills before bed. It's 3 milligrams of melatonin. If I'm traveling overseas, like I'm going to India next week for a week, I will use the STIMULYZE, but I will also add more melatonin, usually another 5 to sometimes even 10 milligrams prior to bed when I get to the country that I'm going to, because I want to reset my biologic clock, my biorhythms in my body, because my brain thinks, it's morning when it's actually nighttime in India. So I have to reset that, and I'll add that on top of the STIMULYZE, and that works really well. And melatonin, as we get older, as we know, the pineal gland kind of shrivels up a little bit. So taking a melatonin supplement is good. There was a study that someone sent me recently saying that people who take melatonin are like more prone to getting heart failure or something like that. But what they didn't really look at is people with heart failure, or have heart problems, have trouble sleeping at nights, so a lot of them take melatonin to help them go to sleep. So I don't believe that melatonin causes heart failure, if that's a question I'm going to get. I think that it was they come up with the stupidest, data from extrapolating these studies. They don't look at the obvious. They look at the non-obvious just to point out, hey, look at all these people who taken melatonin and have heart failure. Well, all right, look at all these people who have heart failure who don't sleep at night. And how many prescriptions do they take for Ambien and Xanax and all these other ones as well? So, but I think, those supplements I mentioned, there are other people take metformin, supposedly it helps longevity, but metformin decreases IGF-1 release from the liver, which is not good for bodybuilding. I'm not a big fan of it. Some people take that rapamycin, which I wouldn't take at all. I think it's very dangerous. And, everyone's, got this thing about telomere length, which is the length of, of the DNA strands. As the telomeres shorten, supposedly that means your lifespan is going down and down. I don't think there's a real cause and effect at this point. I don't think there's any supplements to prove that you could increase your telomere length. They're only doing stuff like this on studies on mice and stuff like that. So I don't buy into all the hokey type supplements. I know it works, and I seem to stick with that. And I'm not going to, like I said, take 400 different things, because what's going to happen ultimately if you start doing that is you're going to get interactions between all these things, and you're going to get some side effects, and you're not going to know what the hell is causing them because you're taking too many things at the same time. So I don't recommend that.
In all your years of obviously being in the sport, covering the sport, of all the bodybuilders that you've met, who would you say is the absolute number one freakiest in person, male and female?
I mean, it's not even close. I mean, Greg Kovacs was the freakiest because, he might not have had the best physique, but he was the freakiest because, we're talking about a guy who was, 6'2", 6'2" and a half, 420 pounds. I mean, remember, I was 320 at my biggest, and people thought I was enormous. He was 420. That's 100 pounds bigger than me. When we walked around together, no one even looked at me. That's how big he was. No one freakier than he is. And because just of the sheer mass and size, and he was like a monster almost, So that was the most impressive I've seen in person. As far as men, as far as women go, I don't know who the freakiest was. A lot of the women that looked really good in clothes, they didn't look that big, but it's when they took their clothes off that they looked really good. I mean, Iris Kyle at her best was I thought she had the greatest physique of all time. I mean, just off the charts. I mean, like she was like Ronnie Coleman, at her best. So I would say Iris, but in clothes, you would never know Iris looked like that. Walking around in clothes, I can't off the top of my head think of who was the most freakiest in terms of women goes, but I would say that Iris Kyle was the most impressive.
Question about PCT. Is necessary to do PCT 2 weeks of HCG, 2 weeks of Clomid when you're over 60? Or since you practically no natural testosterone, is it unnecessary and can you go directly to TRT?
Once again, it kind of goes back to what your goals are. Like if you're competing still at 60 years old, then I want you cleaning out. And it's not that I want you cleaning out because the drugs are toxic. I want you cleaning out because I want to get your receptors to start working again. So when you get off gear, okay, and when you go, you do your 2 weeks of HCG, 2 weeks of Clomid, and then you do 4 weeks off of everything. During that 4-week off period where there's nothing in there, your body doesn't know that it doesn't have enough testosterone. All it knows is that the androgen receptors are not being stimulated. So what the body does, and I've said this a million times, but I'm going to repeat it because it's worth repeating. People keep asking the question. The body starts producing more androgen receptors because it's not getting a response. And the reason it's not getting a response is there's no testosterone around or very little of it. The body doesn't know that. It just thinks there's not enough receptors. So over that course of that 4 weeks, you're on nothing. Your body's going to increase its receptor density, and everyone, I guess it increases it differently, but significantly upregulate those receptors. Then when you go back on a cycle, even if you just go back on HRT, your body's going to respond really well. Okay. Now, if you never went on a full-blown cycle, then you don't have to do that. Like if you're always on HRT, you're never really overstimulating the receptors and downregulating them. But if you do, a cycle because you're competing, then you will downregulate those receptors, and we want to get those receptors back. Now, if you say, you know what, I did my last show, I'm 65, I'm done, I just want to be healthy and just feel good, then you can just go on HRT and stay on that forever. But if you're going to do another cycle, my suggestion is to definitely do the PCT clean out like I recommend and stay on my STIMULYZE product the entire time because that will keep estrogen and DHT levels in check.
So I actually have multiple questions on this about macadamia nut oil, when it will come back. And then one person asked directly, is the situation in South Africa, I'm not aware, maybe you can elaborate a little bit more about this, is the quote situation in South Africa affecting sourcing for macadamia nut oil?
No, the macadamia nut trees are still producing nuts. We miscalculated. It's a good problem to have. We sold so much macadamia nut oil so fast because I guess everyone now is finally catching on to how great it is. It tastes great. It's super healthy. It's great burning fat. It's good to add to your diet. We sell on Amazon so much of it to like regular people now that we ran out. We just got caught with our pants down, and then we ordered it, and then there was a shipping. I guess there was a shipping problem because it's coming from South Africa. They got to put it on a boat, and I guess it missed the boat. I don't know what happened, so it was delayed by 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So really, what happened though is we ran out of it and too fast. Because you kind of can predict how much you sell on a monthly basis, and so when to reorder it. And we order it like 10,000 bottles at a time. It's not like we're ordering small batches. And we just ran out too fast. So, I mean, thank you guys for buying it. It will be back, I think, very shortly. I think within the next week or two, we'll have it back in stock. So,
take one more question. This one about insulin dosage. I'm trying to dial in my insulin dosage. My fasting glucose is around 110. Tried 1 IU of Novolin N before bed, and my fasting glucose was 85. I eat 150 grams of carbs first meal pre-workout, and an hour later, my glucose is at 70. 12-hour mark post-shot, I really feel it start kicking in, and I'm basically eating for the next few hours to avoid going hypo. Any advice?
Did he say he's taking 1 IU?
Yeah.
I don't think he's taking 1 IU. Because 1 IU.
He says 1 IU of Novolin N, yeah.
Maybe he means 10, because it's 1 IU is not going to do anything. So maybe he meant 10 IUs he's taking. A lot of people don't know how to measure stuff. They have an insulin syringe and it says 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, all the way up to 100 if you have a 1cc. And they think that, 10 means 1. So, I mean, sometimes they mistake it like that. But 1 IU is not going to drop you 12 hours later. It's not even working at that point. Novolin N only really has it probably is effective from 12 to 14 hours. So usually you get the biggest surge initially when you take it. I'm glad that his blood sugars are back to normal. I have a feeling he was taking 10 and not 1 IU. And that's fine. Eat. Usually when you're first, I guess, notice that your blood sugar control is not good, it's in the morning. Fasting blood sugars are high. But yet the 2-hour post-meal blood sugars are usually good. And everyone thinks, and the doctor always says, well, then you're fine. But no, you're not fine, because when the morning ones are high, it's basically telling your body the pancreas is having trouble keeping up. And if you address it now, you're not going to get worse. So you're doing the right thing, but if in the middle of the day you're getting a little low, then you got to eat some more food. That's all. But I can't imagine that happening from 1 IU.
Take one more question. This one about statins. What are Dave's thoughts on statins? My ApoB and IDL are high, but my cardiac CT scan with contrast came back at 9, and my triglycerides are low.
Yeah, I think the most important test you can take is the cardiac CT scan with contrast. If you do that and you're clear, which it seems like he is, with a score of 9 is really low, I wouldn't worry about taking it. I would never take a statin if that's the case, because that means that even though your LDL is high, it doesn't matter because you're not laying down plaque. Now, that doesn't mean in 5 years from now you might not start laying down plaque. So you want to definitely follow up every 5 years with the cardiac CT scan, or even more frequently if you're a neurotic like I am. But yeah, I would not address it with a statin. Statins are really bad. Statins inhibit cholesterol production in the body. And remember, cholesterol is what your brain uses to repair itself. So all the neurons in your brain and all the neurons in your body use cholesterol to make the myelin sheaths that conduct the nerve impulses. If you don't have any of that present, or you don't have enough of that raw material present, that cholesterol, you're not going to repair those myelin sheaths, and you're going to start getting dementia. So they've definitely shown a linkage between statin usage and early dementia. So I would never use a statin. Now, the only time I might consider it is if I have a family history of high cholesterol and heart disease and early death, and my cholesterol is high, and I have blockages in my coronary arteries. Different story. Now you're kind of in a desperate situation. You might have to do that. But if you don't have any blockages and your cardiac CT scan is clear, I personally, look, I'm not a doctor, but I wouldn't use a statin in that situation.
That's going to do it for this episode of Ask Dave. Right now on the channel, an all new, very heavy episode of the After Hours podcast. Amin Alai, who self-reported yesterday for his prison sentence, appeared on the show and kind of gave his final thoughts before going into prison. Real life, and I mean, as real as it gets, really, for any YouTube or TV programming. So go check that out. So it's one of the real ones, one of the real episodes.
One more thing I wanted to say, Sid.
Yeah.
On After Hours 2, we reported that I had talked to Haley McNeff's mother, because as you know,
yes,
TMZ reported that she died of a cocktail of fentanyl, heroin, and cocaine. And, she had told me that she hadn't received any notification from the authorities on an autopsy report or toxicology. So as far as she knew, there was none. So she didn't even know what the cause of death was. She reported to me today that they got back to her, and somehow they leaked the information to TMZ. I don't know how they got it before the mother did and before her father got it, but they did, and it is accurate. So that she did die of that drug cocktail. Unfortunately, it's pretty sad. You know, a lot of people are dying of fentanyl. Not that the cocaine and the heroin was safe, but obviously when you add fentanyl to the mix, it's a deadly combination, and unfortunately, that's what killed her. So just to clarify.
So again, all new episode of the After Hours podcast, and then of course Sunday night's episode of Monday. Actually, I keep saying Sunday night. Heavy Muscle Radio is now a staple for Monday early afternoon U.S. Eastern Standard Time. Right. It was Dave, it was Chris Aceto, it was Kamal El-Garni talking about Andrew Jack's big resounding win at the Romania Pro. Chris, obviously his coach, but Kamal, who really has been the training partner for Andrew Jack pre-Olympia, going into the Olympia, and then of course for the Romania Pro. So some very interesting insights into Andrew. Many people see him now as a rising prospect for the 2026 Olympia title. So go check that out. If you haven't already done so, subscribe below, hit the notification bell. You're not going to miss this or any other segments that we have on this channel. For Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.